All right, angle relationship notes. All right, we're going to start off with parallel lines. Okay, parallel lines look like this, and they are lines that never intersect, so they never touch. Okay, so parallel lines. And then we're going to put a transversal on our parallel line. This is our transversal, and that's just a fancy word for the line that intersects the parallel lines. Okay, so we have our parallel lines here, and then we draw a line, and that's our transversal. This is another example of a transversal. This is how you're going to see it. It's going to divide. It's going to divide the two lines up into these 8 different angles. So you're going to see it numbered like this. All right, a few words that we need to know as we learn some new angles. Acute and obtuse, those were great in elementary school, but we've got some more angles to learn. Okay, one of the words we need to know what it means is interior. So interior, that's like interior designer. The interior of your house, that means inside. All right, exterior, that's like the outside of your house. Okay, outside. Alternate, we're going to use opposite. Okay, so when we have something that's alternate, it's going to be the opposite. All right, vertical angles are 2 angles that are formed by intersecting lines. Okay, so right here is our parallel line, our transversal. These 2 angles are vertical angles. They're congruent. They're going to have the same angle measurement. All right, so those are an example of vertical angles. I could use these 2 angles. Those are also vertical angles. I could use these 2 angles. Those are vertical angles. I could use these 2 angles. Those are vertical angles. They're all formed by these intersecting lines. All right, complementary angles, you should have learned this in 7th grade, but complementary angles are 2 angles whose measure have a sum of 90 degrees. So when we have 2 angles that add up to be 90 degrees, those are complementary. So in this example here, an angle of 30 degrees and an angle of 60 degrees adds up to be 90, it's complementary. So to remember complementary, think about how a right angle makes a corner. Okay, think about the C in complementary and the C in corner. Okay, and that's going to help you remember that complementary, they make a corner, which is a right angle, which is 90 degrees. All right, so we're going to use our parallel lines cut by a transversal. And what this basically gives us, it gives us 8 different angles, but it gives us these top 4 here. All right, I've used our famous patty paper to trace those. And if I move them down to the second set, they're all congruent. They're all the same. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 matches up with 5, 6, 7, 8. So this set of 4 angles and this set of 4 angles, they're the same. Okay, so we start off with congruent. Congruent angles are angles with the same measurement. All right. And our congruent symbol is the equal sign with the squiggle. So we have angle A is 30 degrees and angle B is 30 degrees. So angle A and angle B are congruent. Okay, for example, I can say that this top angle here, angle 1, it would be, is congruent to angle 5, because if I move that down here, angle 5, it's the same. Those are the same. Okay, so I could say, for example, angle 1 and angle 5 are congruent. I could have a couple of different ones. I could use this angle here and this angle here. They're congruent. They have the same measurement. Okay, supplementary angles, that goes with the complementary from the front of the notes. This is 2 angles whose sum are 180 degrees. Okay, so think about a straight angle. Okay, it makes a straight line, a straight angle. Okay, starts with S Supplementary starts with S. The angle that's a straight line, that's 180 degrees. The two angles that add up are 180 when they're supplementary. So for example, 120 plus 60 is 180. This makes a straight line here. Okay, those are supplementary. So these two angles are supplementary because they're on this straight line. Okay, they make this straight line, so they're 180. All right, I could say that this angle here and this angle here are supplementary. They're not making a straight line, but if I take this angle from up top and put it next to this angle from the bottom, then I have my straight line. Okay, so that's 180 degrees. So these are supplementary angles. So any of these that make a straight line, so like angle 1 and angle 2, I can use those as examples of supplementary angles. All right, corresponding angles are angles in the same relative position. So that's like the 4 top angles and then the 4 bottom angles. They're in the same relative position. So these angles are corresponding. All right, so this top angle here, it's in the same spot as that bottom angle. Okay, so these are congruent. All right, so this is an example of corresponding angles. I could say this angle and this angle are corresponding angles. Those correspond. Up here on my numbered angles, angle 2 and angle 6 are in the same spot. Those correspond. Okay, there's more examples. This is just one example that I'm giving you. All right, alternate interior angles. All right, so that's that vocabulary on the front. Interior means the inside. Okay, these are interior or inside angles that lie on opposite sides of the transversal. So that alternate, that means it's opposite. So the interior angles have to be in between the lines. So our interior angles have to be in between the lines. So these angles here, if I take that top angle and spin it around, we can see it's got the same measurement as that second angle. So alternate interior angles are going to be congruent. All right, so I can have these two angles or I can have these two angles. So they're on opposite sides of the transversal and they're inside the parallel lines. All right, and then on my numbered example up here, angles 3 and angle 6 would be an example. And that's how you're going to see it when you see problems. All right, alternate exterior angles. Exterior is for the outside, and they are angles that lay on opposite sides of the transversal. So that's the alternate is opposite, exterior is outside. So these are going to be outside of the parallel lines. Okay, so here's an example. Another example would be right here. Okay, so these angles are congruent. Okay, when I take this angle here and put it, well, I gotta spin it to put it on this angle here, those are the same measurement, so these are congruent. An example up here would be angle 1 and angle 8. Okay, those are on the outside and they're on opposite sides of the transversal. Okay, same side interior angles. These are angles that lay on the same side of the transversal between the two lines. All right, so same side and on the inside. Okay, so they've got to be on the inside but this time they're on the same side of the transversal. So like here or here. Okay? These angles are going to be supplementary. All right. So these angles here, if I take this top angle and I pair it up with this bottom angle here, you can see that it's going to give me that straight line, which is 180 degrees. So these are supplementary. An example up here would be angle 3 and angle 5. Those are supplementary. Okay, so a few vocabulary words for you to get familiar with. Different types of angles, and they all have to do with the parallel lines kept by the transversal.